I was born in Ohio on a farm, and down the road about a mile was a train track, and we had the real steam engines that were still running then before 1960. And when they were starting to come down the track miles away, you could hear the whistle blow, and we'd run to the end of the field so we could really see the train up close. And once in a while, we'd be walking down the train track to go down the road to a grain elevator where they had a store where mother sent us down to get bologna, so we come home and have fried bologna sandwiches. And we'd get off the track, and they'd blow the whistle even more, and they'd wave to us. It was awesome. I found out later that my father, at age 16, had gotten out of high school and had to help raise a family, and actually worked in a roundhouse in Bradford, Ohio, on those big trains, and was an oiler on the big wheels. So I guess that's kind of got my start. And then my lovely wife, Diane, said that I should have a hobby after 3 children in close succession, find something else to do. And so her father had a big train set in St. Louis that he'd built, and we were up there for our first Christmas, actually, together. And yeah, it was nice. So we started getting little things. So our first train set was a board about 8 by 12, and the train was very rudimentary. Buildings were very small, and the decoration was rice shaken up in a jar with food coloring, and green rice was the grass, and brown rice was the driveways. So that was the original train set. Her father, years later, moved in with us for a while, and I had to take down what train set I had and put it away. And then about 25 years later, I retired from Orlando Utilities, and she said, well, you need to have a hobby. You need to get your trains back out. So after all the big hullabaloo at Orlando Utilities, the guys had enough money left over. I got $759 cash and a lot of gifts from the guys. So I started ordering train equipment, and my brother TJ lived here with us. And what has now become it was the town of Diane, Dyan, because my garbage truck only had 4 little panels on it, and I couldn't fit her whole name on it, so I made it Dyan. So the community of Diane was born, and it grew from a small town to a replica of basically my life history that is pretty well cemented here in the trains. Starting up on the mountaintop, this is a hollow mountain outside of the town of Diane, named after Will Horton, who was a chaplain at the church we go to, Popka Calvary Nazarene. He was our youth pastor, and he left to go back in the military as a chaplain. So I named it Fort Horton, and in memory of him, we got the 9/11 memorial there, and then the NASA orbiter from the Cape. They sent a replica there, and then at the side is a NASA tracking station. And why would a NASA tracking station be at that military base? And if you look up, you can see that the orbiter is flying over with his bay open, as it did to recharge its batteries. In the sky is hot air balloon rides that were there for the fundraisers for the cystic fibrosis for our grandkids, Camden and Jackson. And then over the top of the military base, the Thunderbirds are flying over and keeping watch over them. And then as you get down into the lower part of the mountain area, the old mail pouch barn, the old farm tractors, and even still got a horse and buggy there. Then as you get down into the bottom of the community there, the big fire station is dedicated. The yellow trucks are there because they back up the military, and that's the color they use. But the fire training center is dedicated to Chief Bill Graves, who was my first fire chief at Pine Hills Fire Department. And so that's the Memorial Training Center. And Orlando Utilities is conducting a class on how to get a car off of a pole And then around the back, they got a hazardous material operation going on, and they're practicing the sealing tanks, and even have a train car to work on. Then as you come around the community, there's an orange grove there. Oh, it's got 4 trees, and those trees put out a lot of orange blossoms. So there's a little beekeeper, got his beekeepers getting the honey there. Then the first house is Miss Diane's house. It looks almost like it. It's got 2 flamingos in the front yard, just like we used to have. And then the next house is the Keller house. And it's got cars with surfboards on top because they like to go surfing. And the backyard has a pool, all kinds of activities going on there. Next door is the Gayhart house. And they also have a pool because they don't like to share. But anyway, there's enough to go around. The next house is Jackie's house, and Jackie's house is my daughter from Ohio that came down to run the school district in the town of Diane. The next house is the fire chief's house, and then the church is modeled after a 1890s church in Portland, Oregon, that was reconstructed here, and a memorial for the fallen firefighters out front of it. Next to that is the school grounds, which the Seminoles just happened to be out there with the marching chiefs in, they're going around now in the middle of the field, playing the march song. Go Noles, all right. Back here is a dedication to the SeaWorld group with our dolphins. Bob Love, a very good friend of ours who was like an uncle to the kids. His wife had cancer and kidney failure, so there's a little roof there top with a nurse and her up there. And then next door was my parents' house. And you can see Grandma sitting on the front porch waving at the train when they come by. Sometimes she uses all of her fingers. And then Poppy's down on the fishing pier with the kids, showing them how to fish, which he always did a good job of that. And then next door was Diane's folks, Reverend Merriman, who's the pastor at the church over here. And a lot of the church family came over to help work in the yard and stuff because he's getting up there. Then next is Chad's house. And Chad's the police chief. He used to be with the Popka Police Department for years. But when they retired, they brought him into Diane to be the police chief here. I guess his mother had thoughts about who she wanted running her town. And she wasn't going to let me do it. In the backyard is Jamie Maltby's tree service, who takes care of the trees for the community. And then, the Duck Dynasty boys got a little cabin out there. Their little cabin up on the trailer there, and underneath it their airboat and their speedboat. And we had to put a special sign up that says, "Do not shoot pink or white ducks," because we got up here in the bulrushes the 3 flamingos. The 3, okay. Anyway, and then we got other boaters fishing here in Freedom Creek that flows from Lake Liberty up in the top of the mountain there. And Orlando Utilities is putting a new water line down the middle of the railroad tracks. And that's going on as we speak. At the corner up here is a group of people that came through our community and speeding down the residential street, which we don't cotton to that. But the police department was tied up with a robbery situation at the bank. So the highway patrol sent their troopers out, took them down, and no injuries sustained to any of the parties, but they were taken off the street post haste. And then at the field, you can see the baseball or football field there, the games going on. We have a Thomas the Tank train in memory of our grandkids who like Thomas the Tank. And behind that is the Orlando Utilities, with the power plant, coal-fired power plant, the CSX Railroad with the OUCX railroad designation for Orlando Utilities Commission Railroad, bringing coal in from the local mines. On top of the power plant is it's getting Christmas time. I got my Grinch tie on, you could tell. And that's got the Santa Claus and the reindeer up there. Then further on up, we got looks like a nuclear plant, but it's actually steam, and it's got wind turbines, it's got solar panels, and going up from the power plant down here up to the top of the mountain, the Eagles have launched into the middle of the one of the towers up there, and the orange vehicle there is the game and fish people that are out there checking and making sure that the Eagles are fine. And as you come back down around, the water plant from the Utilities Commission and the electric department is over there. And as you come around further on the track into the top of the mining area over here is a coal-fired, where the coal's mined and brought into the transfer station, where it's brought to the company, Orlando Utilities, is dedicated to Diane's grandfather, Victor Johnson, who was a miner in Michigan and was killed in a mine accident about 6 months before he was going to retire. So we've dedicated that to the Victor Johnson Memorial Mine for him. And then down in the base of the second level here is a VFW post 289 dedicated to my dad, who was in the 289th Division of the Army, of 75th Infantry. And the little bar and grill underneath there, Charlie's Bar and Grill, which is the spot to eat, which named after a space in Sydney, Ohio, that Mom and Dad used to go to. They feed the miners and everybody there. There's a shop there, the Tool and Die Shop, which is replica of Monarch Tool and Die, where my dad worked when he got out of the Army. And so it just kind of brings all that together. The white fire station here backs up the coal miners, but also the Force Tower with Smokey the Bear on the front of it is dedicated to Bruce Jensen, who is Diane's brother-in-law from California, who was a California firefighter years ago when they had the earthquakes and all the fires brewing. And so I dedicated that to him. The Forestry Service has a division here, and the apartment complex there is kind of unusual for the Forestry Service, but it's dedicated to Apartment 19, I call it, for the 19 Arizona firefighters that were killed in responding to firefighters out west. And then the cigar factory is Jose A. and B. Garcia's cigar factory. When they closed down the mines or the fields in Zellwood, where they used to use flood irrigation, there's still a lot of good dirt out there. So these boys from Tampa came over and started planting tobacco and raising better tobacco that was grown down in Santo Domingo. Little known fact. So that his wife, Donna de la Vega, has a cigar shop there. People come from Tampa and all over just to buy cigars here in Diane. Forestry Service, big truck with the bulldozer on the back. And in front of it is actually the Forest Rangers, the head ranger, Al Harris, Smokey the Bear, Bronco. And then, back on the side there is a billboard for NCIS, my favorite group. Mark Harmon, who Daddy said we were related, but Mother said we never got any Christmas cards from him. So as you come down into the base of the town around Lake Liberty, there's been a plane crash. Oh my word. And it hit a boater. It must be fatality because the coroner's there, the medical examiner, and the sheriff's department had to come out and back them up because, again, the police department was busy over here on a hostage situation. So as you come around the field here, Boy Scouts were camped out on the east side of the lake, and right behind them is a Statue of Liberty, because during 9/11, a lot of the volunteers from Diane went up to New York to help recover after everything, and they were so grateful that they sent the town a Statue of Liberty to put in their park. And the park is dedicated to Harmon Field, which is my family's way down background. And they said that the gift of land is the gift of life for children. And all over Ohio and New York, Maryland, there's Harmon Fields all over, and those fields can only be used for sports for children. And so we dedicated Harmon Field at Lake Liberty in Diane. And then the Florida State has a small campus here, and at the biker church that's located there, coming around, oh my goodness, the IRS has a building here in the middle of Diane because of the mining industry and all the other locals going on here. They had a fire, and when they called the fire department, they started laughing and they kept hanging up. Who cares? IRS is on fire. And finally somebody got a hold of the mayor, and Diane says, you better get somebody out there and check on what's going on. By the time they got there, the first person on the scene was the hot dog vendor, because he knew he was going to be making some money today. And because everybody wanted to come watch IRS burn. And they finally got the fire trucks and everybody out there, started getting the building under control. And because the government does not practice what they preach about paperless societies, they had quite a fire going by the time they got there. Across the street is the Union 76 station, where Darrell and his other brother, Darrell Goodrich, have been servicing the community for a while. And next to that is the downtown fire station, or police station, next to the fire station. And that's where they've staged their teams that's coming out to the hostage situation at the city bank. Seems like the bank guard on the bank truck was in on it when the cars came and started taking everybody hostage. So it was going bad real quick, but one of the tellers was walking into the bank and saw this all going down outside, so she hit the alarm and locked the bank door, so they're all stuck out there. And then finally, when the police chief, Chief Harmon, got word of it, he sent the SWAT team and everybody out there. And little beknownst to the bad guys, the SWAT team is crawling up over the side of the bank now. And the takedown truck with the SWAT is coming around with a takedown team behind it. And they got plenty of reinforcements over here, but it pretty well took the resources. They got a decoy armored truck coming up there to draw the attention so they don't know that they're being watched. And they got another set of snipers over here, snipers up on top of the building over there. And even up by the Forestry Service, you got a police car that's got an eye on them. And then even, oh my goodness, if you look up, the police chief has sent his drone out, and when the activity gets going too far or too fast, oh my goodness, and the chief says, all right, we've had enough of this, take them out. And that's the way it goes. Down the street, you have the Wonton Laundry next to the barbershop. And next to that is Stokes Hardware, which was a big deal in Apopka when we came here. If you wanted 3 nails, you could go buy 3 nails. You wanted 5 screws, you buy 5 screws. It was just a legend with the wood floors and the open barrels and everything. Next to that is a building where people have their businesses. Bradley and Associates, who was a architectural firm, named after my late son, Steven Bradley Harmon. They do a lot of architectural firms, businesses, and builders have their offices in there. Next to it is the Nye Black Funeral Home. Oh my goodness, that sounds like the name where I used to work when I was 16. And in there is a flower shop run by Eleanor Johnson. Oh, that was Diane's mother. And they had a business called the Village Florist. And next to that is Chief's Bookstore with the Tobacco Indian out front with the cigars in it. Next to that is the Paramount Theater, and the theater showing Men in Black 3, which is one of my favorites. Across the street from that, which if you could get into the parking lot with all the police cars, is the donut shop run by Krispy Kreme, run by Tori Van for Van Camp from our church. And next to that is the A&W root beer stand. And across from that is the Citibank that's being robbed or was being robbed. And next to that is the Sandpiper Lounge, which my daughter Diane, Michelle, got the first movable sign for me, the Sandpiper Lounge, as I started building the train set. It looked like an old Howard Johnson, so I painted the orange roof brown, made it more of a lounge activity. And then the Memorial Diane Town Hall looked like it had been an old church, and that's where the town hall is that people will gather for all their activities. Paving the road in front of the Hoffa cement plant is the architect and engineer firm of Skip Holloway and Associates. And it's all set up to the DOT standards with the flashing lights, barricades, hard hats, their safety vest on, and all done to Florida DOT standards. Some of the vehicles are specially designed by me, and my brother TJ put the lights on everything to make them work. We got signs that says detour ahead, and all the little traffic signals and the lights actually work to show you which way the trains are coming and going. Then you get to the back there where Hoffa Cement is, and all your building supplies in the community are available from them. But if you know the history of Hoffa, they said he's still missing. But with that blue tarp around the big gravel pit out back, we don't know what's going on. But if you could get in behind the pit, you'll see that they've uncovered a 57 Plymouth, and it appears to be a body in it. And all the FBI and people are out there investigating right now that they might have found Jimmy Hoffa right here in Diane. Who would accept? And then the railroad station with the Chattanooga choo-choo sign, which is where Diane and I spent our honeymoon in Chattanooga, Tennessee, is run by the Santa Fe train depot. And the train station's got a lot of repairs going on where the engines, cars, and stuff are repaired there. And Bob's hot dog stand out front to service those who need. The Diane passenger station is the mode of transportation most often used here. And air traffic is diverted to the Apopka Airport, which brings in military as well as civilian. So that's basically the Community of Dyan, and I hope you enjoyed the tour.